Welcome all out there. You said you're not having a drink.
I'm not. It's a Coke.
I shouldn't drink cocaine, man.
Don't you tell me how to live my life, you son of a bitch.
Welcome to the podcast. I am Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, one of your hosts of this strange and kooky podcast.
I'm another one of you strange fuckers, HP Shovecraft. What's up, Tom?
What's going on? I got a little beer going, a session ale.
Oh yeah, what is that beer you were talking about?
Shangri-La, I guess.
Like the Lost City?
Mm-hmm. And I also got another one called Eye to Eye. Look at that one.
Nice. I like the art on that.
So we are traveling back in time. Pretty much. It's time to get intense.
Intense. Wait, I didn't bring a tent.
So obviously, it is often said that war is hell, and it turns out that it provides the perfect cover for doing something just as awful, committing serial murders. For a handful of serial killers, the chaos and distractions of war provided a perfect cover for killing not in the name of cause or country, but for the thrill of it. For the thrill of it.
It really is kind of like, I mean, the perfect storm and the perfect setting for it. While everyone else is occupied with everything else that's going on, especially if you're in like London and you're worried about your city being bombed constantly, then, I mean, here in the States, we didn't really have to worry about it as much because there was no ground fighting here. The biggest thing was like California might be invaded. There were a couple Japanese subs spotted off.
Yeah, Hitler might have his summer home there. That's what the plan was. He was going to make a summer home in L.A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Nazis actually, I believe the Nazis reached out to a couple of tribes of Native Americans to get them to try and help.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. They turned it down, but, he's like, yeah, you want to get invading peoples out of your land? Yeah, we will definitely not take your country afterwards. It's fine. It's not as though we know that you have been conquered once before through devious means, and we know that we could do it again.
Imagine living in the middle of World War II, wondering when you or your loved ones will get drafted, wondering will they come back, wondering how food is going to make it on the table. Obviously, then you're hearing rumors about a serial killer stalking the night. And at the time, it would have been like, there's a murderer out there because they didn't really use the term serial killer yet.
Yeah, I don't even think Fish was referred to as a serial murderer, right?
No.
Like the term serial murder didn't come about until Quantico did the behavioral analysis unit.
So it has been like this psychopath.
This fucking murderous psycho.
So I want to get into this. I've always thought about getting into talking about serial killers that are under the cover of war, because considering how it just seems a lot easier to operate while everyone is distracted.
Well, not only under the cover of war, there are a handful of, big time serial killers that were born either during World War II or clearly to the parents of, people from World War II, which you could say that traumatic stuff could lend to bad parenting, which could also go into, developmental
war fucks you up.
War
definitely fucks you up. So you can you got some of these pulled up so I don't butcher these absolutely.
No, I have the ones that I'm reading pulled up. But I can pull up the other ones. Hang on.
Okay. We're going to bring it in where I'm going to talk about the first couple of serial killers operating under the cover of war. And then Anton's going to take it almost halfway through and he's going to talk about the ones that he researched. So it's going to be kind of a halfer. We're going to get into it and it's going to be interesting.
I think we can go like 1 and 1 if you want.
Yeah, let's.
Which one are you starting with? You starting with Dr. Satan?
No, we're starting with Paul.
Paul Bernardo?
No. Paul or Gorzer.
Yeah, how do you pronounce that last name? What is he? He's German?
Or Gorzor.
Oh, Gorodao. No, that's Japanese.
Yeah. Paula Gorzor. That's not going to say it. Gorzow.
Okay.
So the S-Bahn is a railway system that runs through Berlin, and during the darkest times of World War II, it literally was a dumping ground of a serial killer who stalked the city during blackouts designed to foil the Allied bombers. And obviously, yeah, we got blackouts were used because they didn't want to be bombed, and it is a lot easier to see a city when it's filled with lights. And
Most
then
of
you can
Europe
just
had blackouts and
bomb.
curfews for that exact reason.
Yep.
Just
So,
simply to assure that there was they were a more difficult target to hit.
have you ever seen the Band of Brothers?
Of course.
That that series was pretty good.
Mhm.
And they're like, and it, the graphics don't really hold up as much as they could, but even I think I've got most of it because I bought the series. I think I watched most of it, but it is pretty cool how they show it. Like Steven Spielberg did do a good job, especially when they're like jumping out of the planes and you see the bombs exploding while you're jumping out of this plane in a parachute. There's guns being fired at you. It is just literally pure chaos. Pure chaos. You could literally get stuck in a tree and then get fucking stabbed by a fucking bayonet. I was gonna say a barnet.
By a banana. You can get stabbed by a banana.
Stabbed by a banana. But like it's just that it is pure chaos, and like anything can really go wrong, and you can end up dying at any turn. You could turn your head and you could get shot right in the fucking face.
Well,
So
not only that, but I mean the likelihood of something horrible happening to you and your body never making it home to your family is also a very real possibility. Like the dudes that got shot on the beaches of Normandy, some of their bodies just floated out to sea and got eaten by sharks and shit. So
yeah, that's true. And those dolphins probably raped them.
No, they were dead. Dolphins aren't necrophiliacs. Penguins are.
I was gonna say, you sure they're not necrophiliacs? Penguins
I don't know. Yeah, penguins. So from my understanding, this is getting a little off topic, but penguins, when they're dead, it mimics the mating signal, I guess. Like when like a female is just because they just lay down and they're passive.
So weird.
Yeah, so
they rape dead bodies. Penguins rape dead bodies.
It's not like it's at least we don't know. We don't think it's like a human being malicious and weird and deviant. It's just like the penguin's like, oh, this one's ready, and she's not saying no. So and then it's like, hey, get up, no.
Oh no.
Then that penguin goes and cries in the corner because of the the horror that they've just committed.
It's like Billy when he chokes too hard. All right, so the first bodies were discovered in the late 1940s, and the killing continued. Multiple victims were thrown from moving trains. Most of them had fractured skull and bore signs of assault. And does it mean sexy assault, or does it mean like he hit them with something?
I think it just means signs of a struggle.
Yeah. So as more victims were identified, BBC, Big Black Cock Collections, just joking, the British broadcast, whatever it's called, communications bullshit. BBC Collections says that the Berlin police knew they were dealing with a single killer. They suspected a railway worker, but finding the killer was a bit like finding a needle in a haystack. Of more than 5,000 employees, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have like a centralized computer database to just sort through them.
No, that you got to talk to everyone individually.
Did you do it? Was it you?
Was it you?
You sure? Yeah. Okay. Well,
let you go.
Thank you for your time. Don't go nowheres.
By the time the last victim was discovered in July of 1941, one name was standing out the most, was Paul Orgorzo. Orgorzor. I don't know how to pronounce this fuck's name. Orgorzow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it in the Japanese way.
Orgorzow.
Orgorzo.
So coworkers regularly called him misogynistic. Oh, so I get called that for believing not in the science that's okay. Shut up.
How fucked up do you have to be called misogynistic in 1941?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's actually true because coworkers regularly called him misogynistic, and half of the 8 killers' victims were found within a mile of his home. So if that doesn't make it obvious, I don't know what does.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is all hindsight and shit, and obviously we're playing armchair detective here, but you can't really narrow it in using, the information that we have now and stuff like that, where it's like, this is the behavior of a psychopath generally, and then if they don't, you're going to stray too far from their own area,
Yeah,
or like their MO or anything like that. Like, there's 18 people that have been hucked off of a train. Is it a common occurrence or?
Yeah, and obviously you have a bunch of psychopaths fighting in the war at the time. Someone's like, sign me up, man. I've been waiting to kill for a very long time.
I'd say you definitely do have a handful of psychos, but you've also got a fair amount of people that bought into the whole, war is glory and honor thing because
Yeah, or I'm going to have a vacation.
Well, if the World War I vets would have actually been able to, get through their shell shock and open up to people, I'm sure the the World War II vets would have been a little more reluctant about being like, maybe we should kind of like be smart about this.
Yeah, obviously. And war fucks you up, like we said. War is hell, and war will cause hell on your psyche. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't fuck you up, there's something wrong with you to begin with. So
that's true. Paul was ultimately arrested, and after confessing to the murders, he was executed. And they used the good old head chopper, the guillotine.
Shunk. Yeah, there's a couple of these that were choppy chop.
You gotta love that. The guillotine's intense, bro.
That's rough, dude. Would you rather be facing up or facing down?
What do you mean?
You want to see the blade coming, or you want to not see it coming?
I don't want to see it coming. Fuck that. I don't want to see it coming. Not in my face. So in hindsight, it seems like he should have been caught well before his eighth victim. But Paul hunted under the cover of blackouts and used the darkness to escape the police pursuit at least one time. Also, the possibility of a German serial killer wasn't even on the police radar for a long time. Instead, they investigated foreign workers, Jewish locals, and the possibility of British agents in the area. So they're like, no way. No way one of our own citizens is a fucking psycho. We got this guy running our country. He seems all right. He seems a little unstable, but man, like the way he talks, it's pretty rad. Like he gets my blood going. He makes me think that we're gonna be great again. Make Germany great again.
Tom, I refuse to believe for one moment that during the 1940s that a serial murder was occurring, that anyone would risk getting canceled by blaming the Jewish people.
That's true.
It's not as though that was socially acceptable at that time.
All right, you want to bring it in, bro? Bring it in.
Yeah, oh yeah. For this one, we're going to go to the land of the rising sun. And we are going to talk about Seisaku Nakamura, also known as the Hamatsu Death Killer.
Oh, shit.
Because
Japan. We're going to Japan.
We're going to the land of the rising sun. All right. As a teen, Seisaku appeared to be a kid that any parent would be proud of. He was quite smart, excelled at his schoolwork, and was perfectly polite. All of this while overcoming being born deaf. Beneath Seisaku's golden boy facade lurked a dark secret. He was also a bloodthirsty serial killer. It is believed that he has fatally stabbed 11 people in the Shizuoka prefecture of Japan. Do you know where Shizuoka is, Tom?
No, where's Shizuoka?
I actually have no idea. I was hoping you knew.
Yeah, I know. I keep a map of Japan in the next room.
Yeah, it's right under the Nightmare on Elm Street poster. In an article from Executed Today, the exact details of Nakamura's killing sprees remain somewhat of a mystery. The reason he was allowed to keep killing for so long? Well, it was 1942. Japan was deep in the throes of World War II, and the Japanese government suppressed things like news stories and witness testimonies. They did this in order to not add any fuel to the chaos the nation was already experiencing.
I wonder why.
So it's believed that his first kill took place on August 22nd, 1938. It was the attempted rape of 2 women. They resisted him, so he killed them.
Oh, shit.
It also should be noted that this information is still speculatory. We have no actual, solid evidence to say that this happened. It's just kind of assumed and linked with his crimes.
Yeah.
What we do know for certain is that on August 18th, 1941, he murdered a woman and injured another woman. 2 days later, he murdered 3 people. On September 27th, he murdered his brother, injured his father, his sister, and his brother's wife and brother's child.
Christ. He killed his brother and his father.
Yes, and he injured the rest of their family.
Man, something's wrong with this guy, that's for sure.
Dude's fucked. Dude's completely fucked.
What made him so fucked?
That's the thing, is that we don't really have enough information to kind of detail a profile on him. We just know what he did, how he did it, and things that he might have done.
During the World War, right? Japan was doing some really, really bad stuff.
Yeah, so was
everyone was, but Japan was doing some pretty horrible stuff in unit, was it 137?
731.
731. I said it backwards.
Damn dyslexia. Yeah, but I think, at the same time, while you have that is done for prisoners of war and people that they deem to be subhuman, like the Japanese and the Chinese, battles that have been going on since they both existed. So they viewed the Chinese as subhuman. So a lot of the people that were experimented on in 731 were non-Japanese people. So it didn't count. It's like the less dead in their mind, I'm saying. Not
so they always have beef. It's like, how Dave Chappelle has that joke where it's just like, you know what? I've never met many people that hate like Asians. He's like, more than other Asians. It's like they constantly are beefing with each other. Did you just call me Chinese? I am North Korean. Like they get mad if you anything, and they go at each other, and they're constantly at war, or like essentially like saying that I'm the better Asian race. I'm way better than you. That's how it seems to go down.
Well, a lot of those cultures are isolationist, and they've been rivals since society existed. So
crazy. We kind of believe in the same thing, but not really. So let's fight each other.
So on August 30th, 1942, he murdered a couple. He murdered their daughter and their son and attempted to rape their other daughter. But he gave up, I'm assuming, either a struggle or, he made too much noise and was alerted to, or people were alerted to his presence. So that daughter survived and gave a description which matched a person of interest in the Nakamura family killing.
So then they connected all these together to fucking pinpoint his ass.
Correct. He was arrested for 9 murders on October 12th, 1942. So shortly after, like 2 months after the final one, he also admitted to 2 others. On November 11th, his father committed suicide. I thought his father was dead. No,
Yeah, I thought he killed his father and his brother.
He murdered his brother, injured his father. He injured his father.
Okay.
Yes. His father committed suicide. I'm assuming seppuku for dishonoring the family name by giving birth.
You think that he stabbed himself with a little sword?
I don't know if he stabbed himself. He might have. I know that hanging and other stuff is traditional Japanese suicide. Plus, obviously, Japan has a much different view of suicide than the West.
Yeah, you can just go walk to the forest and then just go hang yourself, and then Logan Paul will come videotape you.
Yeah. Exactly. So under a wartime law, he was tried as an adult, though he was only 19. The doctor claimed he was not guilty by reasons of insanity, but they decided otherwise. The trial went super fast, and he was executed on June 19th by hanging in 1944. So 2 years after his final murder.
You know what Kate Winslet would have said?
You're crazy.
That's what everyone says.
Of
course. Tom, what do you got for us?
Oh, I know what we got. We got coming down the pipe. You know what we got?
So badass! Dr. Satan!
Dr. Satan!
Maybe he lives next door to you.
We're talking about Dr. Satan.
Marcel
Patois. Marcel Patois. Ted Bundy definitely didn't invent the idea of a charming, charismatic serial killer. Take Marcel Patois.
You're in Canada. You should have a French accent, you whore.
I fucking hate French. If anyone's listened to this podcast long enough, you know that I hate French. Never wanted to learn it. My French teacher, I think, because the last time we had to take it was in grade 10. He just passed me because he's like, I just want you out of my classroom. Like he's like, do the bare minimum and I'll give you a C. And I was like, all right.
Can't beat that.
So
we were playing Phasmophobia, and you decided to fucking go off of it. He's like, "Yeah, we hate you out here." He was from Quebec.
Yeah, there's a guy from Quebec, and we were playing Phasmophobia. So check that out on strangebrewttv or invader_TTV, or you'll see them eventually come up probably through the Patreon pipeline. I keep saying pipeline. I'm loving the pipe today, and this guy was saying he was from Quebec, and I was like, we hate you. I was being quite serious.
He meant it to be comical, but it did not come across as a joke in the least bit.
Historian and author David King, who wrote Death in the City of Light, based on Marcel's story, described him in this way. He's a guy, obviously very intelligent, charismatic, and has respected position, is into calling and collecting antiques. He collected antiques, interested in the arts. He seemed like one of the nicest guys.
Let's not ruin antiquing here, okay? Antiquing is a wonderful... Yeah, I know you do. I know you.
I love antiquing.
Why-
He's saying he's like the guy that did wrote all about him and wrote an entire book about him. Was like, you know what? He was a super nice, charismatic guy. I probably would have got along with him. Me and him when I went to the bar, we would have had a beer. We had a great conversation about antiques. Like,
Yeah, and where the best place to find them is, and other good places to hide a body and correct that
Yeah.
beard.
It took King years of research to piece together Marcel's story, and here's the basics. It started with occupied Paris and a huge number of people who wanted nothing more than to get out from underneath the Nazis' oppression. Marcel, who was established Parisian doctor, he's Parisian.
Was the last name of Petois the giveaway?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Sought out people wanting to flee and told them he was a member of France's underground resistance. He sold them a hook, line, and sinker. He's like, you want out of here, man? I know it's getting a little rough. This guy with the mustache seems to be yelling a lot about putting people like you into camps. Which actually he wasn't. He didn't say that, actually. Nobody really knew what was going on.
I don't buy that.
I know
a lot of the camps, a lot of the death camps were not in Germany, so it would be very difficult for them to understand and know, but they knew something was up.
For the fans, Anton does want to do a Holocaust denier episode.
For the fans, I would love to cover the topic. We are a conspiracy podcast. I would love to cover the topic of Holocaust denial.
I feel like
I'm not saying that I agree with it, because I don't.
You are Jewish, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, and I mean, when people bring up stuff, the one thing that people bring up with the Holocaust denial stuff is like, why we take so many pictures and blah, 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 blah. It's like, and Eisenhower had a fucking quote about that. He's like, yeah, you know why we took those pictures? Because he knew years down the line, people would be like, that didn't happen. There's no way that happened. He's like, yeah, we need to document this because it fucking happened, and we need to not pretend that it's not possible again. Just
in case, I feel like it needs to be a Patreon episode with me, you, and Juan, and then we can kind of really go off because it would be pretty deep. And then I would be because when we
history about that, because my family fled Russia, then they fled Germany, then they got to Canada, and when they got to Canada, they were like, we're not Jewish anymore. Fuck that.
Yeah, no way. I don't want to.
They're like, nah, we're good. We left two countries to kill us.
So once he lured his victims into his home and promised of helping them to freedom, he had them write letters to their loved ones saying that they were escaping and they're absolutely fine. Just write this letter. I just want them to know that you'll be okay because you're in the hands of Dr. Satan. What's your name? No, it's Marcel. It's Marcel. Okay. That's just my stage name. Okay. Don't worry about that. That's a slip of the tongue. So
call me Dr. Satan because I'm a magician on stage. They think that I've made a Faustian bargain in order to get my powers.
So then he gave them an injection, claiming it was a vaccine. That's interesting. That's interesting.
One episode, Tom. Just one.
I know.
Just one.
Sounds familiar. But it definitely was not. Definitely was not. Because it didn't stop the spread. It didn't stop you from getting it, and it didn't stop you from dying. So
no, it actually caused you to die.
Yeah, exactly. Bodies.
So we're clear. We are talking about Petois still, okay?
Yes.
So,
Bodies were then dismembered and incinerated and then spread in the courtyard of one of his homes. He went all out. He obviously enjoyed this, and he's burning them all up. And he's you know what? He's I feel like he had the idea before that goddamn pig farmer. Or was he a chicken farmer?
Robert Picton.
No. Heinrich Himmler. Was he a chicken farmer or a pig farmer?
Himmler? I believe he was a pig farmer.
I feel like it's chicken though. Chicken.
Pick it. Chicken or pig? God damn it.
I know.
Pickin' or chig? Pickin'. It's picking.
It's just crazy that literally chicken or pig farm. Are you looking it up?
No.
Oh god damn! I thought you were. Let me look.
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Agronomist and farmer, Himmler was acquainted with the principles of selective breeding, which he proposed to apply to humans. He believed that he could engineer the German speculators. Dieter himself was a pig farmer, found himself in like-minded company with Himmler, and Himmler was a chicken farmer.
I just saw that. Yeah, he definitely was. So he would. Oh my, so crazy to me. A chicken farmer became a man that developed the concentration camps.
Hitler was a vegetarian and a painter.
I know, it's so
Pol
weird.
Pot was a history teacher.
What happened to these
What do you
people?
mean what happened? Like, it doesn't, it's not your fucking, designated profession that makes you a madman. You just happen to be in those things.
Cry me a river. I feel like Hitler was just a big ass pussy.
Don't be stupid.
Everything.
Yeah, schmonty. Hitler, okay, so Hitler was a monster. Plain and clear. Obviously, there's no debate about that. But Hitler was also somebody who was absolutely manipulated by those around him. And the man was gacked out of his mind on drugs, between being on meth most of the time to keep him going, and then being thrown on barbiturates to knock him out when need be. Hitler was not in his right mind. He was a mouthpiece. Like, he was a charismatic, awful, effective bastard.
Exactly.
But
and guess what? He was
plenty of other people pushing him and yeah, exactly.
He was puppeted by the reptilians. Ding ding ding.
And the Thule Society also helped fucking, to form Hitler. Like, no, there were to blame it all on Hitler is an understatement, because there was an entire political system engaged in the systematic extermination of multiple
and then you
peoples.
have, I've said this before, right? You have Roosevelt that didn't really care about the oppression of the Jews. He was more or less mad that they got hit by Japan, but then historians will say that he provoked it and that he wanted it to happen.
He didn't want it to happen. He knew it was going to happen, and he let it happen. So
And then
Roosevelt was under immense pressure from Churchill, because Roosevelt, most of the American population didn't want to get into the war. They were like, nah, fuck that. And then it wasn't until Pearl Harbor that Pearl Harbor, much like another event where a couple buildings fell down, just whipped the country up into a fervor and was like, all right, let's go get them Jap bastards. Like, Americans hated Japanese much more than they actually, hated the Germans.
Yeah. And this guy looks like a fucking psychopath.
The dude looks super familiar. He looks like an actor that I can't place the mind of, or
his eyes look like he's staring. One side of it is into your soul, and the other side is into your, I don't know. He's staring into your soul.
He's staring deep into your soul.
So it's not known how many people he killed, although the official count is 27, which is pretty intense. And it is believed maybe it's closer to 150 slain victims.
I mean, that's not uncommon for the time, though. That's not even uncommon for now. How many people did Bundy kill? We don't know for sure.
Like 30.
So hear me out. Going back in time on this,
less.
You think this also happened during the Underground Railroad?
So
anytime you're trying to smuggle somebody out, you're going to have a higher likelihood to get away with the murders. Like the coyotes at the border now that helps bring immigrants across the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm sure there's plenty of human trafficking and shit that occurs through that. It's if there's a situation that's exploitable by sociopaths, then it's going to happen. They're going to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I told you about my my project, right? When I was a kid.
Which one?
When we did the Underground Railroad.
Oh, you might have.
It was like in grade 7. Did I tell you about that?
You might have.
Do a project video about like the you picked a certain part of history and you got to draw it out of like a name of a hat or something like that. So me and my buddy got the Underground Railroad. So obviously researching into it, I found out obviously it was super racist and they were using Chinese workers and Asian workers, stuff like that, most of all as pretty much slave labor to build the railroads.
That's not the Underground Railroad.
What am I thinking of? I'm
thinking of the railroads. I'm talking about like Harriet Tubman and smuggling slaves out of America into Canada.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's another thing that is another thing. When they built the railroad in Canada. So yes, my bad. So not the
Chinese labor, Irish labor, and ex-slave labor generally.
Yeah. So obviously you have the Underground Railroad where they smuggled people to try to get slaves out of slave conditions. And then when we actually built the railroad in Canada, right, we used a lot of immigrants and paid them next to nothing. And a lot of them got injured and killed on the job. And a lot of them were Asian. So when obviously find this out, I have a dark sense of humor, always have. So we're about probably 12 or 13. And we had to do this skit for and do a historical kind of skit. I feel like I've said this to you. So I
think so.
I drew on a mustache and I put a pillow under my gut and I got a whip and my buddy was an Asian dude. And this is grade 7. And then he's like, there's old railroad spikes in this place that we used to call 420. And we used to go smoke weed there. So it's all this old abandoned railway that's in the little town that we were in at the time. And then so he's like pretending that my dad's filming it. My dad's killing himself laughing because I'm like, you're trying to do it. I'm like, you get back to work. And then we did this whole skit where I'm like, and then Dylan, my buddy, is trying to escape, and I was like, "Come back here!" And then there's a big hill, so I purposely like did the whole like fall and like really hard and fell down the hill. I'm like, "You God damn it! You gotta fix this railroad. You gotta get it done." And like I just like whipped my buddy, and we were joking, and he was going like, "Yes, master, yeah," and like doing this like awfully dark humor kind of racial skit. And
kind of.
Yeah, it was like it was.
It sounds like it was predominantly racial.
Yeah, it was literally all jokes to show that this was happening. We were using dark humor, and we were kids, so we were joking around. And my teacher showed it, and she's like looking at us and like, really, guys? And she's like, okay, we're not gonna play that again. I wish I could find that tape though. It's ridiculously stupid and funny, but we were just kids having stupid fun.
What was the grade you got on that?
I think we got like a B+ actually.
I'm sure you're like, it was very well done, but you're horrible people. I'm giving you a B.
So yeah, we don't know how many motherfuckers this guy killed. It could be close to 150. Marcel was eventually captured after his home caught fire and police discovered the remnants of some of his victims, and he was found guilty and executed. And I wonder if he tried to burn the house down to get rid of evidence.
Did they don't detail how he was executed. Let's find out. I bet you it was guillotine.
They love that fucking head chopper, don't they? And a lot of times for everyone that like, I eventually definitely have a whole book about crime and punishment, and I would really like to get into different ways they executed people.
Guillotine, baby.
Was the guillotine?
Oh, it's France in the fucking 40s. I think the last time someone was executed by guillotine in France was like 1976.
Well, so the guillotine barely worked though.
No, it worked all the time.
A couple chops.
No, it didn't.
I heard that it took a couple chops.
No, guillotine was always the one that. So like most, like choppy chops with like a sword or an axe that took multiples. But the whole reason the guillotine was there is because it was just singled up. Like, how would that malfunction?
No, I've heard that sometimes it wouldn't go all the way through, and then you'd have heads roll in the basket, and obviously there's still motor functions in like their nervous systems.
They say what, 15 seconds?
Yeah, they blink, like blinking as they. Imagine how scary that'd be. And there's people that are in the crowds loving. There's people love this shit. It's like they're only entertainment, so it's like
was there entertainment? Think about it this way: how many people do you know that say stupid shit like, "Oh man, I wish that they would execute that dude on live TV"? I'd tune in. I'd totally watch. It's like, why? Why? I understand that it's a fascination with death and it's a human thing, but like,
only one person.
I don't know, man. I've told you my theory on that. He doesn't need to be executed. He needs to have a minimum wage job working with truckers where the management turns a blind eye to the beatings he receives daily.
Yeah, or what else did you say? The whole stockade would be a great idea. Throw tomatoes at him.
Rotten fruit, only rotten fruit and rotten eggs, and let people shove stuff up his ass. The whole thing.
And like go right up to his face and like put your butthole directly on his nose and let out a big fart.
I would eat just Taco Bell for a week straight, walk up, drop trow, and just fucking foamy diarrhea all over that motherfucker's face.
Damn, son.
All right,
that's nasty. Right into his
Let's
fucking
get
mouth.
on to it. Let's get it going.
All right, we're gonna go to merry old England for John Christie, the Rillington Place Strangler. Let's get into some police corruption, shall we? Look at that. Speaking of guys that look like Heinrich Himmler, only skinnier.
And I was debating because he was on the list. I wanted to mention him on this episode, but John Christie was one that I was debating on doing on its own too, just because it is a pretty interesting story. But we'll see maybe down the line, a couple of years, if we end up diving into him fully. But it's a pretty interesting character, and Mr. Christie, we love your cookies.
Mm-hmm. Sure do, Mr. Christie. So, according to the Radio Times, when Christie was just 8 years old, he stood at the side of his grandfather's open coffin and told mourners that he was gripped by a fascination with death. And not even just death, but the body itself. He went on to have repeated run-ins with the law and sex workers, which also in turn had him have more run-ins with the law. Also broke up his marriage because his wife knew that he was frequenting sex workers. So it wasn't until World War II that he gained a position which would help him get away with murder. Having already been kicked out of the Royal Air Force, blah, 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 blah. Why was he kicked out of the Royal Air Force? I have it right here.
What was happening? You good?
After his release from... Oh, no. Christie served as a signalman in the British Army during World War I. During June 1918, he was wounded in a mustard gas attack and convalesced in a hospital in Calais. I'm mispronouncing that. Sorry, England. Don't hate me. He later claimed that the attack left him blind and mute for 3 years, but there is no historical evidence for this. His inability to speak much above a whisper was likely a psychological reaction to the gassing, not a physical one.
Oh, shit.
So, having already been kicked out of the Royal Air Force, Christie got accepted into the police force, despite already having served time in prison for causing grievous bodily harm and a series of petty crimes. That was in 1936. And in just a few years later, in 1943, his reign of chaos and murder would begin.
Chaos.
So
Christie,
was...
We love your cookies.
Christie was a member in good standing in the police department, and because of this, it is believed he used his authority to remain above suspicion. When he resigned, he could even keep killing if he wanted. His victims included Beryl Evans and her 13-month-old daughter, Geraldine.
What's her name?
What's her name? Beryl. Beryl. Beryl Evans.
What a fucking horrible name.
And her 13-month-old daughter, Geraldine. But to make the story even more heartbreaking, Beryl's husband, Timothy, was accused of these murders. While on the stand, he insisted the killer was none other than Christie himself.
It wasn't me. It was fucking that cookie man. It was that guy that fucking makes all those cookies for the kids.
He brought the cookies over, and he murdered my family. But the cookies were pretty on point. His pleas were unheeded, and Timothy was charged with her murder, found guilty under a forced coerced confession, which he later retracted before the trial, and he was hanged. After the trial, Christie continued killing up until 1953. He was finally arrested, found guilty of killing at least 8 women, and then hanged.
Jesus.
He was hanged by the same hangman who hanged Evans as well.
How many times can you say hanged?
Hanged. According to the BBC, Timothy Evans was posthumously pardoned in 1966. So they basically, said,
What?
We're sorry for killing you, even though we know you didn't do it.
When did Mr. Christie start making cookies? Because is this the same Mr. Christie?
Mr. Christie is still alive today making cookies from beyond the grave. No, he got hanged by this. I just said that. He got hanged by the same person that hanged Evans.
So crazy. Let's talk about Eddie Leonski.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Eddie looks like a cheerful man. Looks like
oh my God. He looks like Milton Berle and Andy Griffith. Sorry, he looks like Milton Berle and Ross Perot had a fucking love child.
Strange. So Eddie Leonski.
Haunting.
When women started turning up dead in the morning after brownouts, I have a brownout every morning when I wake up. So brownouts
were saying you shit your pants.
Yep. So which were sort of they were kind of like blackouts of World War II, but less severe. In Melbourne, Australia, shit's going down there all the time. It wasn't long before witnesses came forward claiming to have seen the women with American GI. Historian Bart Zinno, nice name, of Deakin University says there was a sense it had been an American serviceman, only for comfort that it couldn't be one of us. So it's just like, well, it's not one of the Australians. We're nice. We put shrimps on the barbie. So the witnesses were right. After Britain refused to reinforce and protect Australia from fighting in the Pacific, President Franklin D. Roosevelt did. Along with 250,000 troops came Private Eddie Leonski.
Franklin, tiny legs Roosevelt, ladies and gentlemen.
Did he have tiny legs?
Polio, bro. That's why he wore the blanket.
Oh yeah, poor Poor Roosevelt. A New Jersey native with a personal and family history of violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. That's the perfect person that you want in war because he won't get two shits.
Nope. They're most likely going to come out relatively unchanged unless they're, they get a taste for it, in which case you're fucked.
Exactly. So after, though he served with those who served with him, knew him as an angry drunk who craved attention, his ways did not change when he was in Australia. He was the same, but he seems like a happy-go-lucky dude, smiling fucking ear to ear, big goofy ass ears. He
really does have just a Milton Berle, Jack Nicholson Joker smile, though.
That's true. That is. After the third body was discovered, strangled in various states of undress. So he was doing some of the he
was getting a little post homicide coitus, is what we're saying.
Yeah, he's getting a little handsy with her.
He may have had some sticky red stinky fingers.
So it didn't take long for Eddie's reputation to make him a person of interest. He confessed, saying that I done it to stop the voices. She was singing in my ear, he told police. It sounded as if she was singing for me. I grabbed her and she stopped singing. He's fucking absolutely mad.
So this
you do a New Jersey accent? Jersey.
You fucking Jersey? What's your fucking problem, huh? Why don't you go back to fucking Brooklyn? Nobody wants you here, all right? Get out.
Why don't you put some shrimps on the barbie? Because we're in Jersey. I don't fucking know.
Miller, where's the gabagool?
Eddie Leonsky went through the United States military court martial system, was found guilty, and hanged after his request for an appeal was denied. So he literally, they fucking hung this dude for the crimes that he was doing to women, most likely, while he was over in Australia.
Dude.
What I've heard is Canadian and Australia women are mucha gracia. Oh, yes, so sexy. So, that's what Necro says, so, because he's touring all around. I'm wearing a Necro shirt right now, so.
I noticed. It's a sweet shirt, though.
You would like all of his shit. His designs are all, horror-based, really.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. I like it.
And then at the back. Oh, wait, what does it say? Okay, fucking turn it.
Society just can't understand me. Die.
Society just can't understand me. Die.
I don't know if that phrase works very well, but okay.
Yeah, he literally had an album called Die.
Okay.
The whole album is called Die. This is not even from that album. It's from his new album. His new album was called The Notorious Goriest.
Oh my God.
It's
glorious.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into it.
We are going to go back to the land of the rising sun.
Talking about that Mikura guy?
We are going to go for Miyuko Ishikawa. There she is being escorted out of the courtroom.
What's with their glasses, man?
I love those glasses.
Like the round monocle glasses.
I love them. I don't know why. Japanese fashion is just especially World War II Japanese fashion, just
I've said I'm interested by all cultures. If I had the money, I would travel around the world and meet every single person because I love everybody. Everybody love everybody. I love every human.
Everybody love everybody.
Except for some brainwashed propagandists.
So in her early life, Ishikawa was born in Kunitomi, Miyazaki Prefecture and graduated from the University of Tokyo. She later married Takashi Ishikawa. The relationship did not produce any children. She worked as a hospital director in the Kotobuki Maternity Hospital, Kotobuki Sanin, and was an experienced midwife. So she helped women give birth.
Yep.
So she was a Japanese midwife and serial killer who is believed to have murdered many infants with the aid of several accomplices throughout the 1940s. Jesus. It is estimated that her victims numbered between 85 to 169. However, the general estimate is 103. That is the general estimate that they're like, this is kind of where we're going to settle on, 103.
Jesus.
So when she was finally apprehended, the Tokyo High Court's 4-year sentence she received was remarkably light, considering that Miyoki's actions resulted in the death toll so high that it remains unrivaled by any other serial killer in Japan, That includes
Actually?
Shinrikyo. Yes.
Wow, that's fucking nuts. And then there's that Japanese cannibal I want to get into eventually too.
Yes.
Very fucked up.
According to a report of Children's Rainbow Center writer Kenji Yamamoto, referred to the incident as unbelievable and unbearable.
Rainbow Center, is that where they took all the LGBTQ plus during the
Shut
war?
your whore mouth. No, we were sent to the camps, just like everyone else.
It's true.
So in the 1940s, there were many babies in her maternity hospital, and Miyuki found herself facing what she perceived to be something of a quandary. The parents of many of these infants were poor and unable to raise their children properly without financial struggle, and she herself was unable to help the infants because of a lack of social and charitable services. So how do we solve this problem? Well, murder is really the only clear option here, right? Infanticide. It's just a super, 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 super late term abortion. That's all it is.
Yeah, super, super late.
Real late term abortion. It's like, you have the partial birth abortions. This is a full birth, couple weeks later abortion. Take that, Christians. No. So in order to solve this dilemma, Ishikawa chose to neglect numerous infants, many of whom died as a direct result of this abuse. So much like the Chinese killing rooms that are alleged to exist. The baby death rooms where you just leave them and starve the babies.
That's it? They just leave them there?
Yeah, it's fucked. It's beyond
Where's
fucked.
that prom night dumpster baby?
I feel like being a prom night dumpster baby is like a step above, because we'll probably die quicker than you would just being left in a hospital.
Yeah, you're right. Hospitals kill people more likely than they are to save you.
Almost all of the other midwives employed by the Kotobuki Maternity Hospital were disgusted by this practice and resigned from their positions, because it's just like, I'm not going to sit here while you fucking leave babies to starve because you can't think of a better plan. Later, she also attempted to garner payment for these murders. She and her husband, Takashi, solicited large sums of money from the parents, claiming it would be less than the actual expense of raising these unwanted children.
Jesus. So, here, pay me, and I'll kill your
kids. Yep.
What the fuck?
See, if she would have just gotten a nice big bronze bowl, started a little fire, thrown those kids in there, I bet you she'd have the blessing of Moloch.
That's what I was going to say.
Would have gotten
Moloch
with it.
Would show up and he'd be like, you know what? I like
you. You're feeding me kids and they're really good. All right. So she was Shiro Nakayama was also complicit in this scheme and aided the couple by falsifying death certificates. The Shinjuku War Office ignored their actions. So during her arrest and trial, 2 police officers from the Wasedi police station accidentally found the remains of 5 of Ishikawa's victims on January 12, 1948. Autopsies performed on the bodies of the 5 babies proved that they had not died of natural causes. She and Takashi were arrested on January 15th, 1948, which I believe is 2 years after Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed.
Yep.
This is just post-war Japan.
Crazy.
2 police the victims were deserted children, and she insisted that the parents were responsible for their deaths. The public supported the assertion, but Yoriko Miyamoto criticized them, saying it was an example of discrimination. Upon further investigation, the police found over 40 dead bodies in the house of a mortician. 30 corpses were later discovered in a temple. The sheer number of dead bodies recovered and the length of time over which the murders took place made it difficult for the authorities to determine the exact number of victims. Consequently, the exact death toll remains unknown. The authorities viewed her homicides as a crime of omission. In the Tokyo District Court, Ishikawa was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Takeshi and Dr. Shiro Nakayama were each sentenced to 4 years. The couple appealed the sentences in 1952, and the High Court of Tokyo revoked the original sentence and sentenced Ishikawa to 4 years in prison and Takeshi to 2 years. This incident is regarded as the principal reason the Japanese government began to consider the legislation of abortion in Japan. One of the reasons this incident was thought to have occurred was the result of an increase in the number of unwanted infants born in Japan on July 13th, 1948. The Eugenic Protection Law, now the Mother's Body Protection Law, and a national examination system for midwives was established. On June 24th, 1949, abortion for economic reasons was legalized under the Eugenic Protection Law in Japan.
You poor? Kill your baby. Well, it is funny because the poorer you are and the less educated you are, the more kids you have. which is pretty sad. And then now we have this generation of idiots. So I wonder why.
There's no way she's still alive, right?
No way. That'd be
But
crazy.
her nickname was the Oni Sanba, the demon midwife.
She's that character in Devour. The spider
She's the
lady.
spider lady.
So let's talk about Rudolph Pyle.
Rudolph Pyle.
Rudolph Pyle, the Dead Maker. The Center for European Studies says that by 1946, German citizens were left separated by a blocked-off boundary guarded by American, Soviet, French, or British troops. Families separated, unsurprisingly, wanted obviously to go back to their loved ones. So enter Rudolph, and he had promised that he could get lone family members across the border to rejoin their loved ones. This whole
thing, a pattern here.
Yeah, there's the same thing where it's like, well, I'll convince you. At the time, I'll use deception essentially to murder you. And his methods of killings played out over and over again, just like it did for Gertrude Glode. Gertrude Glode.
Gertrude Glode.
Gertrude, what a name that doesn't exist anymore.
Gertie.
The 44-year-old widow wanted to go east so she could get her paperwork in order to start a new life with what remained of her family. She hired Rudolph and never made it back. Rudolph acted as a border guide, and instead of seeing his charges across the border, he took them out into a secluded area, assaulted them, and killed them.
Did he pepper them too?
What?
Did he pepper them too?
It's funny. It's what we used to do at the restaurants. Just pick up a bunch of salt, like, I assaulted you. So stupid.
I peppered you.
I peppered you. So even though he was stopped by border patrols numerous times, he repeatedly was let go until 1947. That's when an axe discovered along the side of obviously like a road or something, the dismembered body of a German merchant was identified as belonging to Rudolph. And it wasn't long before he was arrested and ultimately confessed to 26 murders. 26 murders where they found some body, and it was connected to Rudolph.
And in 1958 Germany, they wouldn't kill. I bet you Germany was like, no, we're not killing anyone for quite some time.
Yeah, because sentenced to life in prison. He was sentenced to life in prison. So obviously, and it's funny, after all the stuff that was happening with the war, they kind of were like, all right, yeah, maybe we've had enough killing considering the 6 million people.
You know how out here in the West we had the gas chamber?
Yeah.
I think Germany had gas chambers post-war if they were still doing executions, and they just used leftover Zyklon B to do it.
I could see that.
We don't have enough money to pay for the chemicals to kill you, and we're not going to waste a bullet, but we do have a bucket of these pills left over from, an undisclosed location.
Yep.
I think we will use them instead. Rope is expensive, and these, well, we already have some, so we might as well use it.
So Rudolph Pyle committed suicide in 1958 and still behind bars. And what about Gertrude? What about Gertrude?
What about Gertrude?
Her body was recovered from the bottom of a fucking well, and it was only a mile and a half from her home, where her daughter continued to wait for her. And they finally, I don't know, and I can imagine it was probably some little kid or just someone like chilling, seeing, oh, look, a well, fresh water. And then they're like, where's my bucket getting stuck on this? And then, a fucking head comes up with a bucket or something. Say that again. You're muted. I can't hear you.
You just pull the bucket up, and there's just hunks of shit floating in it. You're like, oh, God, this water smells like... Is there a cat in the bottom of this well? What happened?
Feel bad for the person that had to go down there.
Ugh.
Not fun at all.
They just had like a claw game, like a crane game that just lowered in. Like, gets her halfway up. Like, oh, shit, it slipped out. These things are rigged. I can never win this. Fuck, damn it, it fell again!
All right, what we got next?
We're not making fun of the victims. We're making fun of the scenario.
Yes, exactly. Waiting on you.
What do you mean you're waiting on me? We did 4. You said we had 4 each.
You got Henry.
That's 5. I did 4.
Oh shit! Well, I thought you had Henry down.
No, but I got Bruno Ludke.
What?
Oh, you want me to do Bruno Ludke?
Yeah, do that, bitch, or that guy.
Was he a mass murderer or a Nazi victim? Bum, bum, bum.
Say that again.
Was he a mass murderer or a Nazi victim? Well, we will find out as we delve into his story. So, first, the story was told for ages. It started in 1943 when Welts says the naked body of a 51-year-old woman who had been assaulted and strangled was discovered. Suspicion fell on a man from the nearby village of Kopnik, and during interrogation, Bruno Ludke admitted to not only having killed Frieda Rosner, but to many, many more. Ludke, who had severe mental disabilities stemming from a childhood fall, head injury once again,
Yes, happens a lot in serial killer folklore.
Was found guilty of 53 of those murders and another 3 attempted murders. He wasn't sent to jail, though. Under the direction of Heinrich Himmler, he was sent to the Medical Institute of the Security Police and subjected to numerous Nazi-run experiments. He died there the following year. For decades, Ludke has been called one of Germany's worst serial killers, but now that's highly doubted. Not only has new research determined that it was impossible for him to have committed the murders, but that Ludke, who had already been forcibly sterilized under the so-called Law for the Prevention of Hereditary Offspring, so Germany's eugenics law,
yes,
had been goaded into his confession by a detective who had fed him names, places, and dates, and then asked him to say that he'd done it. Why? Well, historian Axel Dossmann says that this case was meant to support Nazi ideals about the ultimate extermination of a portion of the people. This would have made it legal to persecute all murder all maladjusted Germans.
Crazy.
So this dude definitely looks a little simple.
Does he?
Yeah, he certainly looks as though...
What's his name?
Bruno Ludke. Like he has that half grin of like an innocent almost, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he doesn't, like out of everyone that we've covered, when you look at their picture, you look at their eyes and you're like, no, that's got murderous intent behind it. But this guy just looks like he's like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like maybe the brain injury was so traumatic, like that he just, you know, was a very base creature. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He does look like a simpleton.
I don't see murder in that dude's eyes. And even like other people like Ed Gein, you can look and you're like, nah, that dude's a little off in a dangerous way. But this guy just looks like he doesn't know where he is.
He's like half smiling in his what's that called?
Mugshot?
Yeah, he's like half smiling in his mugshot. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. He's like,
yeah, because somebody probably said, say cheese, and he's like, okay. Cheese. This bar is uncomfortable. Where can I'm hungry. Can I have snack?
Can I have snack? He's like, you killed a bunch of people. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, that makes sense that it would be so. You know, the Nazis are going to use any sort of propaganda that they can to, you know,
well, it makes
push
sense
their ideologies.
Out of the war would come some either serial killers or just killers alone. They do one kill and then they're caught for it because their psyche is so destroyed. You know, you hear the stories about men hearing a bang or something in their house, something even as small as a thunderstorm maybe, and then they kill their wife by accident because they got a gun under their pillow and they're like constantly, especially after the war, it's just stuck in their head where they're afraid of something bad popping off.
Well, dude, that's just programming. Think about it. If you and I were on the front lines of any given war, right? Yeah. And we are so used to sleeping on alert, you know what I mean? Like not going into deep REM and just staying in that half awake, half asleep stage, being ready at any moment to pop up and be like, okay, there's someone here, fucking go.
Yeah. It's programmed in you. So I'll do Gordon Cummins, and if you want, you could do Henry, I think he's the Russian guy, if you want to pull that up. And then I'll get into the last one, which is I think the most fucked up, interesting one.
Oh, I do have Henry Desiree. I thought we already did him. My bad.
So let's get into Gordon Cummins, the Blackout Ripper. A lot of them do operate under the guise of the blackout. There's not much light. If you think about when me and Billy talked about Jack the Ripper, how there's a candlelit fucking.
That's the gaslight districts back then.
Yeah, it's literally so dark where you barely can see in front of your face. There's just little candle light across, these cobblestone walkways and stuff like that, where you can barely see shit. You really
Plus,
can't.
London was foggy as fuck, dude. The Thames would, and
so crazy. So in 1942, living in London was horrifying, obviously. There were the regular bombings and blackouts, and in early February, those blackouts brought something else. The horrifying deaths of 4 women killed in a single week and left savagely mutilated in a way reminiscent of Jack the Ripper himself. So it's
how
just
many
it
Ripper
ties in.
copycats exist?
I know.
That's a statistic I would love to know. Like, how many people are just like, I'm the next Jack the Ripper?
See, and I've talked about that maybe because we didn't really dive into it on the Jack the Ripper series, is that I want to bring it back to it maybe later on or for a Patreon episode and talk about the conspiracies surrounding Jack the Ripper, because there is a lot.
That it was Prince. One of them was like a prince, or it was a Masonic doctor that was doing it to protect the prince. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, right? The killing started on February 9th with the death of Evelyn Hamilton. Fingerprints on a bloody can opener and were then found alongside the body of Evelyn Oatley. He really liked the two victims named Evelyn. Very weird.
Bloody can opener. Do I want to know where this can opener was? What kind of can opener was it too? It's just one of those old little metal ones.
Oh yeah.
You know, the ones that look like a lobster claw because they're like half hooked and you just
it could be that, or he could have put it like on the vagina and try to open it up wider.
Oh.
I don't know. That's a bad image. So when obviously you found another is it Evelyn or wouldn't it be Evelyn? It would be Evelyn.
Evylyn.
Yeah. So when you obviously it's crazy that two of the, it's just so, I don't know. I don't believe coincidences exist. I know you do, but it is strange. They're strange.
I'm not saying all things that aren't interconnected. I'm saying that coincidence is absolutely a very real fucking thing.
To you.
To everyone with a sane, rational mind.
You're saying I'm not sane or rational.
Are you actually asking me that question?
Everything happens for a reason, okay? Remember that.
It does not happen for a raisin. It happens for a crazen.
All right, now I was like, now cue in the California Raisins, and then they come across the screen playing fucking their jazz fucking instruments.
And then they get beat up by my Ontario Craisins, which is just dried out cranberries. We're here to fuck you up, raisins. Let's go. This is a turf war.
So Evelyn Oatley was discovered the next day after Evelyn Hamilton was found. So, and then Margaret Florence Loy was killed the day after that. And then Doris Junette, which is crazy. So one after another, all these women with horrible names are getting murdered. And according to the old police cell museum, it was then that the press started leaning heavily on the Blackout Ripper angle, and it didn't stop him. And obviously, you have this the media, just like we saw in the case of Jack the Ripper, likes to sensationalize it, sell more papers, so you make it scary, you put people in a state of fear, much like the media does today.
They would never, ever continue those practices today.
Oh, I know, right?
Never.
He attacked 2 more women who were able to fight him off. I wonder what they did. This like beat him with his purse, and their names are probably Dolores and what's his stupid other name? Dolores, and then Gertrude. We already said. What's another horrible old lady name?
Mildred.
Mildred is a really bad one. Yeah, you got Mildred and Dolores, and they're just beating him off with their purses. Get out of here, young man! I don't want your hands on me.
Unlike you, I happen to like old timey names. I think they're fun. Like how many Herschels do you hear of now?
None.
Friedrichs.
Friedrich,
not Frederick.
Yeah. What about Adolf? What happened to that name? That name was pretty bang on. He attacked.
I don't know. What did happen to that name? I bet you there had to have been somebody that came along and ruined a name and a mustache for everybody.
It's true. And then And that's just crazy. That's why I eventually want to get into Charlie Chaplin too, because Charlie Chaplin was associated with this image of Hitler, even though he was the literally polar opposite of Hitler and his ideologies and his views on humanity and humans. And
that mustache was a traditional German mustache for a very long time, and then Hitler fucked it up.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Charlie Chaplin wasn't even German. He just liked it. And it was part of his character.
I had a history teacher who at one point in time used to crack really offensive jokes, which is why I loved him. But one of them was, he's like, you know what my biggest problem with Hitler was? And the whole class is waiting to see where it goes. And he's just like, because he's like, the motherfucker had the ability to grow facial hair and he fucking butchered it.
Yeah.
This dude was mad that he couldn't grow facial hair. I was like, dude, you're fucked.
It's true. It's true.
So
so obviously, like, there was 2 women that were able to fight him off and give law enforcement 2 things: a gas mask with a serial number and the belt from his actual uniform. That led investigators straight to Gordon Frederick Cummins.
That gas mask would later be used by the mad gasser of Mattoon. Allegedly.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Yes. Throwback.
Go check out our Mad Gasser of Mattoon episode, people.
That episode has done very well with downloads. So, and a member of the RAF, the ground crew, who had recently been transferred to London for more training as an airman, he was arrested on February 16th, and the jury took 35 minutes to bring back a guilty verdict, and he was hanged in June of the same year.
Can you imagine 35 minutes?
35 minutes.
35 minutes, and they're like,
he enjoyed
kill the bastard.
Yeah, he looks like he enjoyed killing. His eyes tell it all.
Yeah, so far we really have only had one person whose picture I was like, I don't think that dude did it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like, guilty.
He's a psychopath. All right, you want to get into Henry?
Oh, man, look at this fuck. Look at those eyes.
I know.
That beard, though. I hate people that can grow facial hair. Fuck you, Tom.
I love my beard.
I love your beard, too.
My beard. I can't grow out my beard fully because I always just tamper with it a bit. Like, I just want to like cue it up, and then if it gets too bushy, then I'm like, okay, just trim a little, and then you take too much off, and that's the same.
You got to go to a pro to do beards. I feel like facial hair is just one of those things that it's all. You see mine, like this isn't a thing, and these are always patchy, so I just have to trim it and even it up, and it's just annoying.
Yeah, and haircuts,
badass chops though.
Yeah, fucking haircuts, like everything else, is getting expensive.
Racket, everyth's getting expensive.
It's $40 fucking bucks for me to get a haircut without the beard, and it's
why do you think I haven't gotten my haircut in 3 years?
Yeah, I get it.
It's a waste of money.
Right? Are we dubbing the first Russian? Aren't we? Isn't this guy Russian?
No, this another fucking Parisian.
Oh, really? Wow,
yeah.
They hate
Henry Desiree Landru.
This guy.
He was a notorious French serial killer and has been likened to a real-life Bluebeard. Tom, you know the legend of Bluebeard?
Yeah, of course he's fucking French. Goddamn
Anyone
French.
that kills a whole bunch of wives is clearly Bluebeard or Henry VIII, one of the two.
It's true.
So in his early life, Landru was born in Paris. He left school, spent 4 years in the French army from 1887 to 1891. He was released from service. He had a sexual relationship with his cousin, knocked her up, said, fuck you, I'll not marry you. You're good for sucking my dick and that's it.
He's French? Yeah. Isn't that an Arkansas trait?
Fucking cousins? Bro, incest is a fucking worldwide trait. The Egyptians really loved that shit. Hence the reason most of their, pharaohs were club-footed with severe
That's
birth
true. Yeah, and you keep it, it's all about keeping the money within the family, or maybe, just maybe, keeping the reptilian bloodline going so they can possess these family members to do their bidding across centuries to orchestrate their agenda of the reptilian agenda.
I offer a slightly less sinister approach to that, Tom. And what was one of the most sacred animals in Egyptian society?
A kitty cat.
Yep. And what can cats do that most other animals can't do?
Sleep for a very long time?
They can inbreed for up to 6 generations.
So fucked up. Yeah, they're like
no genetic anomalies. So if you naturally worship a society or a society that worships a certain animal and consider your royalty to be gods.
Yeah, I always said that cats have 1 foot in this life and 1 foot in the next life, because that's why they sleep so often.
Cats are half in, half out.
They're half in of consciousness, and that's why they sleep all the time. Because I believe that they're going to an astral realm when they sleep. Like they're connecting to something else that we'll never understand until we're dead.
Fairly possible. I mean, animals do have senses that we don't know about, so who knows? But anyways. He married another woman 2 years later, had 4 children. He was shortly swindled out of money by a fraudulent employer. He turned to fraud himself. operating scams that usually involved swindling elderly widows. He was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment in 1900 after being arrested and found guilty of fraud, the first of several such convictions. By 1914, Landrew was estranged from his wife and working as a secondhand furniture dealer. Is that like your life goes to shit and you become a used car salesman? But,
Pretty much.
back in the 1900s,
But it's even worse.
This couch, only 3 women have died on it. I swear, I killed them myself. I mean, I found the couch myself. It's been fumigated. It smells good.
Stains.
I did my best to scrub the stain out, but that period blood, it no goes nowhere. You clubs will do nothing.
Oh, I was gonna say a really bad joke. Never mind. Okay, let's
Please
keep
do.
going. No, it's really offensive. Just
Okay, well, remember it and say it afterwards. Landrew began to put advertisements in the Lonely Hearts sections in Paris newspapers, usually along the lines of, I am a widower with 2 children. I'm 43 years old with a comfortable income. I am serious and moving in good society. Desire to meet women with a new view of matrimony.
This guy's got a sad life, bro.
With World War I underway, many men were being killed in the trenches, leaving plenty of widows upon whom Landrew could prey.
Makes sense. Easy prey.
Landrew would seduce them. He was given access to their assets. He would kill them and burn their dismembered bodies in his oven. Not unlike Bel Gunness.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Bring everything you own. Come to my place. I'll give you a wonderful life. Oh, by the way, I'm going to...
Mentioning Bella Guinness, too, I think it's appropriate that we start diving into some female serial killers pretty soon.
As long as we don't do Warnos, because I can't stand that bitch.
You don't like her?
I something about Eileen Warnos just makes my fucking skin crawl, and I don't know what it is.
I'll do it with Billy because he loves that woman. He finds her extremely attractive.
What? Wait, no. Wait. Does Billy find Charlize Theron playing Eileen Warnos attractive, or does he find that piece of fucking methed out Florida trailer trash attractive?
He finds her attractive when she was in her 20s.
Dude, she is hideous. She's fugly as fuck.
Billy has an attraction to women who like crowbars up the vagina.
I don't even think that happened.
I know, I'm just joking. Let's carry on.
Wait, wasn't that Thelma and Louise with the crowbar?
No. What? Why would that happen with Thelma and Louise?
One of them's raped in Thelma and Louise. It's what sets up the whole murder spree.
Is that the whole movie? Is that movie based on anything real?
I think it might be loosely based on Eileen Warnos, to be honest, but I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. I said
I've
maybe.
never watched that movie. I've only seen clips of it.
I've only
Wayne's World.
Yeah, I see the most I know is just keep going, man. The Wayne's World bit. Oh, god damn it, Tom. Between 1914 and 1918, Landrew claimed 11 victims, 10 women, plus the teenage son of one of his victims. With no bodies, the victims were just listed as missing, and it was virtually impossible for the police to know what had happened to them. Landrew used a wide variety of aliases in his schemes. His aliases were so numerous that they had to keep a ledger listing all of the women with whom he had corresponded.
Shit,
and
he
which
had so many different
identity he used for each of them.
I am Brian Ryan.
Yeah, how do you keep
and the
track
next
of
day
that?
he's Ryan Bryan.
How are you just not like,
I know.
my name is Fernando Mizier Blafstiftu, and I am here to assure you that my name is Jacques-Luc. Oh, wait, no, fuck, that was the other woman that gave that name too.
How do you keep track of that? It's true.
There's no way, unless you got a little notebook and you're like, all right, Margaret,
Today.
I told her my name is Jean-Luc. Fernando was Gertrude. Fuck, I can't read my handwriting here. Son of a bitch! So, the list of victims is as follows. Madame Couchet, last seen on January 1915. Son of Madame Couchet, which sounds like a very bad horror movie. Last seen January of 1915 as well. Madame Le Bourdelin, last seen June 26, 1915.
Why all the names Madame?
Madame Guillotine, it's the same thing as Frau or Herr. Madame just means miss.
Okay.
Madame Guyon, Madame Héon, Madame Colombe, André Bebelet, Madame Buisson, Madame Jaume, Madame Pascal, and Madame Marcheder.
Why was one of them named Andre?
André Babier. So in November of 1921, Landrew stood trial on 11 counts of murder. He was convicted on all counts, sentenced to death, and guillotined 3 months later in Versailles. Ah! Chop.
A lot of guillotines, a lot of hanging, and a lot of choppy the head. I would like to see a guillotine actually happen to see if it actually does take more than one try.
I'm all set. When was the guillotine last used? The guillotine was last used 1977.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So I might need help with this pronunciation of this woman's name. Okay.
I'm not done. Landrew traced a picture of his kitchen on the trial, including in it the stove in which he was accused of burning his victims. He gave this drawing to one of his lawyers, Auguste Neviers de True. In December 1967, the drawing was made public. Written in pencil on the back, Landrew had written, Seigneur par les murs derrière, lesquels il se passa quelque chose mas bien la cuisinière dans la cuillère en hébreu quelque chose. It is not the wall behind which a thing takes place, but indeed the stove in which a thing has been burned. My apologies to all of our French listeners. I know I butchered that. I did my best.
You did better than I would.
This has been interpreted as Landreau's confession to his crimes. So in popular culture, back to Charlie Chaplin, Landreau was the inspiration for Charlie Chaplin's film Monsieur Verdeau. The original story was written by Orson Welles. 20-year-old Orson Welles is my ultimate man crush ever.
Yes, I've heard.
However, since Chaplin did not like to be directed by anyone but himself, Chaplin bought the story from Welles. Chaplin then wrote, directed, and starred in Monsieur Verdeau. In 1960s film Bluebeard's 10 Honeymoons stars George Sanders as Landreau. 1967 film Landreau, directed by Claude Chabrol, was inspired by the murders. The 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone, The New Exhibit, a wax figure of Landreau plays an important role. The case also featured in one of the episodes of the 1976 BBC series Second Verdict. 2005 French movie, 2001 satirical journalist wrote under the pseudonym Jean-Baptiste Biotel and published a book entitled Landreau, Precursor of Feminism. Accounts in English include Dennis Bardin's The Lady Killer, Life of Landreau, the French Bluebeard, and William Bolitho's Murder for Profit.
Wow.
Henry Desiree Landreau's severed head is on display at the Museum of Death in Hollywood, California, which is no longer operational. Yeah, that was the part that blew me away. Sorry, that was long, but I wanted to get that.
That's
awesome. It's a museum of murder curiosities, so yeah.
We should go.
It's closed.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it just closed. I want to say during the pandemic it closed, which sucks because I've always wanted to go. Because they had a couple of I think they had Charlie Manson's jacket.
I would steal that.
You'd get to try it on, but apparently, like, unless you're, a child, it ain't fitting you because Manson's a tiny little body. Oh, God.
All right, help me pronounce this bitch's name.
Which one?
Leonardo Chanchali.
All right, let me find it. Hang on.
Sienna Suilia. Leonardo Sienna Ciulia.
Is she Italian?
Which
accent do I do this in?
What?
Which accent do I do this in? Was she Italian or no?
No, I let me find out. Let me find
Leonardo.
There she is.
Chanchali.
She is Italian. Yes, she is.
Yeah, that name. Well, Leonardo's the dead fucking giveaway on the Italian.
Leonardo, what a name. Leonardo Cianci.
I'm looking up the pronunciation. Cianci. Cianciuli. Cianciuli? I don't know.
It's supposed to be, it sounds like Leonardo Chanchali. It's supposed to be how it's pronounced.
Chanchali?
Yeah. Leonardo Chanchali. I literally looked up her name pronunciation. It is Leonardo Chanchali. Yep. Leonardo Chanchali. Did you hear it?
Did you?
Yeah. Leonardo Chanchali, even though it doesn't look like it at all. See, she is a looker. She is a looker. She's someone you want to rub your feet at night.
You know who she looks like? She looks like what's her fuck from the Goonies?
Oh, she does. The mother.
Mafratelli. Yeah.
Yeah. So Leonardo Chanchali, this is why I butcher names, because it does not look like it sounds like that.
Yeah, I don't speak Italian. I don't know.
So Leonardo Chanchali had already lost 13 children to either miscarriage or childhood death.
Yeah.
4 survived when son Giuseppe was drafted into the Italian army in 1939. It seemed like just one more step towards fulfilling the prophecy. An old woman fortune teller who had told her years before that she would live to see all of her children die. Pretty fucked up.
And that's why you don't go to fortune tellers, folks, because it will fuck with your head.
It's true. Yeah, I would like to talk more about psychics one day on this podcast, because I do believe in some, not all, but some. And
I would say there's certainly people that would have a natural gift for.
Yeah. So Leonardo became convinced that she offered a sacrifice, that her fortune would change and spare her son's life. So that's exactly what she did. Over the course of 2 years, she drugged and killed 3 middle-aged women from her village. But it gets even more gruesome than that. Leonardo wrote extensively on how she disposed of their bodies. Here we go. Fanista Sethi, Francesca Solvi, and Virginia Capacopio, whatever.
You're doing wonderful.
They were dismembered and butchered. At least some of their blood was collected, dried, and turned into fucking cakes.
Make unto me cakes of light. Take them in and ingest them.
Then served to friends and family. She made cakes out of her victims. She kept the fat as well, writing, "When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I would..." Here, you fucking read this in your Italian accent like an old woman.
When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time under the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable cream of soap. I gave bottles to neighbors and acquaintances. That woman was really sweet. Now eat up. You look famished. You eat. You make Mama angry.
That's me. It's Mario.
Jesus fucking Christ.
She was captured when the sister-in-law of her last victim went to the authorities. So like, yo, this frumpy old bitch definitely did something with my sister-in-law.
Hey, detective, I know you have a job to do, but you look hungry. I got some sauce on the pot. You come in and eat. Oh, your skin, it look dry. I have a bar here for you. It will moisturize your skin. It get it nice. Just make sure to use on your lovely wife too. Okay. I hold in the carpet. I can't kill anybody. Get out of my house.
And she actually confessed immediately. She almost was like, "Well, you caught me. I'm done." So she was given 30-year sentence and died in an asylum in 1970.
She gave me a Berkowitz excuse.
What took you so long?
Yeah, she went to the nutty asylum. So that was serial killers under the cover of war. There was one specific person that we'll be diving into that is technically part of serial killers that killed under. Well, he didn't really kill under the cover of war, but there's one specific person. I'm not even going to mention him that we will get into eventually, because it is a big topic.
He's a big name, and you true crime nerds know who we're talking about. We're not going to say it, but just be on the lookout for the one big wartime killer that we omitted.
Yeah, so obviously I want to get into this, because we're starting to lead up to getting into full on. We've done some serial killers, but now we're getting into more true crime. I figure, next down the docket and stuff like that, we'll have some interesting stuff coming out. And I think soon, I think the next time you hear me and Anton, we'll probably, I don't know why I was doing an accent there, but we will, I think we should get back into some maybe aliens or some paranormal.
We can definitely do that. And just for all you wonderful, wonderful folks coming down the pipeline, Tom and I are going to be taking a journey to a place that kind of smells like sulfur a little bit, and gets really warm until you get to the very bottom, in which case it's frozen.
Yeah, we are in talks to do an entire series Well, it kind of it dives into everything. You know what I mean? Shout this out because it's coming. But yes, we're going to talk about hell, then maybe talk about Anton LaVey, and then get into some Satanist talk. So it's going to be actually
somewhere around spooky season to start that series up.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea somewhere down the docket, but it's going to be a big one, probably a three-parter because it's all going to be different episodes, but they're all going to kind of interconnect. So it should be a fun time.
Maybe start a hell episode in August when it gets really fucking hot so everybody can just be like, hey, this sucks.
Well, it was covered a while ago, but I'm sure we could do it more justice, and I'm sure the fans would enjoy it too because this is back in the I don't know what I should call it, the just in times. But we talked about obviously human combustion, spontaneous human combustion, which I think would be fun to get back into and redo it because, as I've said throughout the way, we have lost certain episodes that I don't think were up to whatever par we have, whatever I don't know what the expression I want to use, but
you said it.
Yeah, we want to eventually, and that's what's coming up soon. Will be after this one. Will be me and Billy will be diving into one of a very famous case of suicide. So it's kind of funny that we talked about Heaven's Gates cult, and the next one that you will hear Billy on after this episode is back to suicide. Wink, wink, hint, hint. You shall see.
We should definitely get into the Clinton suicides at some point in time.
There's going to be a lot of stuff.
The body is fucking connected with the Clinton name and the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, I eventually want to get into the Franklin cover-up because that's fucked up. It's really fucked
sad.
up.
Dude, that's a fuck story. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that about as much as I'm looking forward to having to listen to the fucking Jonestown tape again.
Yeah, that's going to happen soon, too. So, you know what? We love all the fans. Stay strange out there. Rate and review is the best way to get our names out there. And also, what helps us is Patreon. www.patreon.com/strangebrewpodcast. There is a lot of episodes coming out there. Me and Anton will have a new episode coming out there soon.
Well, Patreon also helps us to ensure that, the overhead, to keep the lights on for lack of a better term. Plus, once all the fascism in Canada stops, we're hoping that Tom and I will be able to get together and do some live shows in person as well for you guys.
Yes, and also like doing film stuff where if hopefully, when the fascism
I'm going to take this hoser around the fucking American side of the falls and
we'll probably film it when we have our when we get together. I think it would be a good idea to literally film us meeting each other. Like I have a pretty good camera on my phone. We'll do a whole thing where we film the whole time I'm kind of down. Hopefully that happens soon when all these hopefully, I'm not a prisoner in my country anymore.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So yeah, and you know where to find us. So www.strangebrewpodcast.com. You can follow me on Twitch if you're inclined to watch us play horror games before they get put on the Patreon at strangebrewttv. But there is a lot of stuff coming on the Patreon. We have lost tape episodes coming out that are episodes that have been, exiled because maybe they were we were, either like drunk or just having a little too much fun, which the people that are coming to the Patreon know what they're going to get. They're going to get a bunch of crazy, dark humor, offensive content to some people, not all people, but we're going to release a bunch of Lost Tapes episodes throughout the years of stuff that, when we started and we were just going over the top.
We're going to have, we got some new merch coming down too from the fine folks at Paranoid American and the wonderful, wonderful Ryan Miz, who made this beautiful logo as well.
Yes,
working on one for us. It's almost done. So those are going to be coming out soon. Follow me at InvaderJagged_TTV over on Twitch. I'm usually streaming Dead by Daylight or some other fun shiz. We played Devour and Phasmophobia earlier.
Fuck yeah.
And HP Shovecraft on Instagram, of course, folks.
Yeah,
we are now also Alt Media Network.
Yes.
So
we're part of a new we're part of a new network. I know you guys are a huge fan, so we're sharing the same network as Tinfoil Hat, which is
Higher Side Chats. My family thinks I'm crazy.
A lot of big time names.
Paranoid American. All of your favorite conspiracy big boys.
We are part of that
swimming in the same ocean.
Exactly. Because you know what, we tried with one and we got kicked off, which this network is literally about making sure freedom of speech is cemented in our lives. So stay strange, all you fuckers.
Oh yeah, and keep watching the skies, you crazy bastards.